another episode of the Youth Wisdom Experience. Today we have a very special guest for you. His name is Doug Giesler, and Doug is passionate. I'm talking passionate about helping others and making the world a better place for everyone. And he's got, he wants to help everyone break through their limits and achieve massive success just like he has. And he's going to share some of his secrets with us today. Doug, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you here. We really, really are. So, you have a book called Being the Instrument, correct?
I do.
And what exactly what where did that come from? What does that mean? Being
Oh
the
my gosh.
instrument.
Well, I have somewhat of a diverse background. So let me give you the
All
prelude to
right.
that. It'll probably help you understand
Cool.
what the book framework is about, because there's a couple more that are going to follow that. So I have been in sales for the better part of my life. Kind of took the corporate journey out of college. I was in
Hmm.
sales straight away. I'm actually pretty good at selling, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I ran into some roadblocks with mindset type stuff I would say mid career after a very successful sales career, sales management, that kind of thing. And I was just bumping into some stuff and just having a hard time getting through it. And at that same time, I was also very, very in tune with the financial markets. So I was studying the financial markets, and I was also studying my own mind while I was studying the financial market. So I would program what's called Easy Language and TradeStation, and then I would watch what it delivered on the screens. And
Hmm.
I was also reading a lot of spiritual material at that time. So I was like late 20s, early 30s. And I had some stuff that I needed to break through, and I knew I needed to break through it. And I just kept bumping into it over and over and over again. And so, what the financial markets helped me to do was to drill down on when I was getting in my own way, and then figure out a way through it, not around it. And this lady that I met during that time period, Jay Hart, mentioned to me that, Doug, the obstacle is the path. And it really hit home for me
Hmm.
because it forced me to think about things in a different way. It forced me to really, instead of going around those problems and challenges, which was kind of like what my mind wanted to do, that's what the ego wants to do. I was forced to look at it in a different way and kind of make friends with it. So when you make friends with those emotional things that are, potential showstoppers for you or potential issues for you, and definitely triggers for you, instead of it triggering you, you're actually seeing the emotion creep up, or, what would normally blindside you, you would see
Hmm.
it coming, and then it no longer blindsides you. So what the
Right.
financial markets helped me to do was I was watching, like I was developing this code. So I was developing code to watch the markets, and while I was
So
watching the
just
markets,
for Doug, I'm gonna stop you just for clarity. When you're talking code, you're talking computer code.
computer code.
Okay,
Yep.
so you're writing software,
I'm writing software
right?
code. And then
Okay,
what happened, I was putting it into the computer, watching what that would spit out in the charts. Like it
right.
would change a bar color, it would paint a line on the chart, it would frame price for me. And then I would watch what it did on the computer. So because I was watching my mind at that same time, I was like, oh wow, it's like all the language was is if this, then that, if this, then that, if this, then that, over and over and over and over again. So I
Hmm.
started watching my mind from that same perspective. And it's kind of hard to describe, but it's almost like you're outside of yourself looking at your mind process things as it's coming in. And it was the strangest thing, but it enabled me to see myself getting in my own way. And then I knew that, because I was kind of running out of money at that time. I was like,
Right.
I can't trade because I just don't. I got my back to the wall. I can't trade. I can't do this. So what I need to do is go out and prove that this stuff works. Because I learned so much stuff about me and about spirituality and about how things work, actually work. that I said, I'm going to go out in the world and prove this stuff works. I'm going to make a bunch of money. And then once I do, I'm going to circle back. Not only am I going to give this back so people can understand it, but then I'm going to circle back and trade the markets too, because at that time I will have made a lot of money. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Hmm.
I took this out. I made real estate really, really successful. Made, not to brag, but I've made a lot of money. And now I'm circling back to try and help people come through the stuff that I had to come through. It was hard. It was hard
Hmm.
work. It's
Right.
like, you don't take 10 steps at a time, you take one. And but there was a lot of them, and so that's what Be the
Mhm.
Instrument's about. It's about how why I was forced to change, the things that I needed to change about myself, the things I learned about myself. And then it basically takes people through the lessons, like to teach themselves their own code. So, like, where are you getting in your own way? Like, because normally we don't see it.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
it's after we screwed up that we see it. What I'm trying to teach people is to see it before the mistakes happen, but know that you have to make the mistakes to grow.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And those mistakes end up being, for some people when they don't notice it, become these low points, and it just leads towards that low point in their life, right? So why don't you share a little bit, because I've read your books, and you've shared some of your stories in there. Why don't you share, a low point before writing the book and how you actually turned it around?
Sure. So one of the things that I noticed when I was day trading, because I figured, this day trading stuff, I was so good at it. Like when I
Mhm.
was trading on a simulated environment, but again, I was running into money issues, which presents fear. So like when you're trying to
hmm.
trade and make money, when you're locked up in fear, you can't do it.
Yep.
Like what
Right.
happens is your triggers get in your way, your mind gets in your own way, your ego gets in your own way. So what I saw in this was like microseconds was that as I'm watching the market come in and I see a trade take place, right? I see where I'm supposed to take the trade, but my mind won't let me. So what I saw was you either have one of two things get in the way. You got fear or desire. So fear, you're going to lose money. Desire, you want to make a ton of money, right?
Right.
So those two things helped me to understand when my mind was going to get in my way so that I could manage my emotional intake and be able to take that trade when I needed to take it. So that translated to some things in my life. Like, okay, well, take that out into the world and just do the things that you're uncomfortable doing because that leads you right to the things that you need to overcome. So for me, that was fear. Okay, so fear of taking a trade and losing money because yeah, I had done that a few times. Like I actually bought a book and made a ton of money, just trading stocks and whatnot. And then I watched it all kind of go away when the collapse happened back in I
Yeah.
think it was 2001-ish, right? And I was so busy with my career, I didn't really notice it much, but yeah, that was kind of painful. So that created a trigger for me. Like, and then when I
Right.
tried to trade for real, like on fast time frames, it created a mental sort of
Hmm.
block that I had to get through. So I had to get through that fear block and see it so that I could kind of overcome that. And not only was I able to do that with, just the trading stuff, but with pretty much everything. Because what I learned was, and Jay was kind of instrumental in this, was that when you make friends with those anxieties and fears and emotions that may be uncomfortable for you, they hit you in different ways. So fear might hit you differently than anger. Anger might hit a little bit differently than frustration. Guilt or remorse or regret, they might hit you differently. So these all hit you differently. Your body perceives them differently, but it pulls you in different directions. So you may have things that are pulling you to the past. You may have things that are pulling you to the future in fear versus desire. But
Hmm.
either way, you're not in the moment making an effective decision. And that's what I saw. And it was super ridiculously empowering because once you master your mind to the point where you can stay in the moment and make effective decisions that affect that future, everything changes. but you can't get caught up in the emotions. You can't let those emotional triggers trigger you, because once you are triggered, you're in fight or flight mode and your brain can't process in that state. So you have to learn progressively to be able to handle more and more and more and more and more pressure, to the point where you're able to handle that one thing that you were not able to handle before. And sometimes that's a stepped progression.
Mhm. And we find that that fear and those triggers, they're not just with when it comes to money or comes to trading or it comes to it's in every aspect of a person's life. You can have that in your love life, you can have it in your family life, you can have it in your business life, you can have it in your financial life. I mean,
Yep.
all of these things, and we create these patterns that, as you said, we're not even aware of them,
Or not.
you
And
know.
the interesting thing, Ross, is that when we don't address them,
Hmm.
they come right back around and they're in front of us again to
Right.
address it. But not only is it that issue, but it's bigger and it's harder to get through. So the one thing that kind of forced change with me, I'm like, well, I don't want my problems to get bigger. Right?
Hmm.
So then it's going to be harder for me to get through. So it's like when they come up, you just deal with them. You
Right.
know? And so it progressively, kind of what I refer to in the book is, you're coming down this road and you see a pothole. You don't go around it. You fill it. You smooth it over
Hmm.
so that you really understand that issue and why it's there, to teach you something about yourself, so that then the next time that you're coming down that road, there's not a pothole there anymore.
Right.
You're not dealing with those same issues over and over and over and over again. But people get into these cycles, and as Garry was saying before, they can be a downward spiral. And I was in one. I've been there, and that's no fun. And that's why I'm writing these books to help people. It is, it's just empowering people to bring their best self forward.
And one of the
Yeah.
things you talk about in the book quite often is, achieving flow states, right? How can someone tap into this state consistently, especially when facing those challenges and those potholes and what Russ and I call the storm? They get caught up in the storm of life. How do
Mhm.
you suggest they do that?
So that's going to be different depending upon the person, and everybody's going to have different ways for them to get into it. Like, if you're in sports, your adrenaline's probably got to be super high. But if
Mm,
you're like, looking at the financial markets, you're probably much more low key, and it's a different
Hmm.
mindset. But it depends on what
Sure.
you're doing and how you're doing it. But my recommendation with regards to getting into a flow state would be to find what's right for you, because if your heart and mind are
Right.
not connected, you're not going to get there, because you're going to actually get in your own way. But for me, um, it's a concentration thing. So
mm,
kind of back to that one challenge that you're trying to overcome. It's probably not going to be something that you get to and overcome in one shot. It's going to be like a bit of trial and error, and you're going to have to know and learn your own triggers and learn where your thresholds are. But as you take those steps forward and you start bumping your ceiling, bumping your head into the ceiling or bumping your face into walls, it's almost like the lights aren't on. And when you bump into them, like, oh, I didn't even see that. But then once you see it in hindsight, you step over it, like you're actually up on the next step and you've seen it, you understand it, so you understand yourself better. That's one step closer to being in the zone the next time. Like you're not quite
mm,
there, but you're stepping there and you're stepping there and you're stepping there and you're stepping there. And it's kind of like, I refer to it in the book like in a give you a really long explanation of a wavelength. It's like you're kind of overcorrecting and you're both sides of the line, but the mean you're kind of going up and right towards that upper right, like a good stock chart. You're going this way, but you're like error, right? But each time you're self-correcting and you're
Hmm.
going up into that zone. So what happens is, what used to be uncomfortable actually becomes comfortable, and your mind's ability to process that level of emotion or that speed of life actually increases. So when you actually are challenged in the moment, that threshold is higher and higher and higher and higher. And so getting in the zone, from a low state, almost impossible. But once you
Mhm.
start to learn your own, the way that your mind ticks and the way that your body ticks at, this level, I need to be this level of energy, not this level of energy. Or,
Yeah.
some people go way too high and then you're too excited. So you're driven by desire, and then other people get too low and you're driven by fear. So you need to manage that in the middle. It's right in the middle. It's not too high, not too low, not too energized, not too down. It's kind of
Hmm.
like right there in the middle, but you gotta find it, because
Yeah. When
if
I used
Yeah.
to
you do,
when I
if
used to
you
teach
do,
with
like
Harv
time
Eker,
actually
he used
slows
to.
down. Sorry,
Yeah,
Gary,
for
go.
sure. With when I used to teach with Harv Eker, he used to one of the things, the concepts he used to prompt all the time is that you've got to think of the gradient from where you are to where you are, and then work the gradient,
Yeah,
right? And that's
Hmm.
what you're talking about,
Yeah.
is that there's the big step, but then there's the all the micro and
Yeah.
the consecutive things that need to happen to get to that next step. And people just want that next step, right? I want
yeah,
the next step, and if they don't get that right away, even though they're this is that, but then they go here, they're still closer, like you said. But then
yeah,
they go, oh man, I failed. No, you're in progress. You're in
right.
process. It's
Right.
that's why they say success is about the journey. It's
That's
And
right.
I like,
And I'm,
I mean, Doug, I liked your example of the athlete too, as to where,
Mm,
if you take a football player, for example, they're constantly working out in the gym and they're constantly on the field practicing and they're constantly, building and building and they're building their muscles and people think, well, they're just building so that they can be stronger. I'm like, yes, they're building their muscles to be stronger, but they're also building their muscles so they can take the hit better
yes, yep.
and it doesn't
And
take them out. They're just going to go boom. Okay. But if they haven't built themselves up in that gradual, you can't go from, being 180 pounds to 250 pounds overnight. It's going to be gradually. And each gradation, as Gary was saying, you're going to take you can take a harder hit. You can take a harder hit and you're
yep,
going to
mm.
come back harder, better and better. And it doesn't take you out of the game. And that's what
you're
you're talking
exactly
about. That's those lows where some people, they're just like they get hit once and they're like, okay, I can't do this.
right.
I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because you're exactly right. You're doing the same exact thing to your mind. You're building up your mind like a
Correct.
muscle to be able to handle
Correct.
more and more and more pressure. So, but the
Yeah.
cool thing
Yeah.
is that once you understand that you're going like this, across like a mean reverting thing, as long as you start to kind of back up and you see that process, you're like, oh, okay, I screwed up. Yeah, great. You take it in stride. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
just need to self-correct, because what people normally do, and this isn't for everybody, but that's actually what the second book is about. The F word, forgiveness, is about letting go of the failures and moving right on. It's learning the lesson in the moment as it happens and then immediately moving on, moving forward. Because when we get caught up into the blame and the regret and the guilt, that's what takes you down to the low cycle. So you're up here,
Right.
you're like, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, lose. And then you're way down here and you're like, oh, I suck. Right. And that's what causes
Right.
the cycles. But once you start to realize that you're on an upward trajectory and you're going to make those mistakes, those lows aren't nearly as dramatic as they used to be. It's like you take it in
Right.
stride, just move forward, move forward, move forward, move forward. It's great. It's like a whole new world to live in.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it becomes a whole new world because you have the strength, the agility, and the resilience to continue on that path so you can build that new world for yourself and your
Yep.
family and in society, depending on what that goal is.
Yep.
That's really
And so,
cool. So,
yeah.
so then, so if you were to if you were to take one piece, one component of being the instrument and distill it down into one actionable piece, because right now we're talking about little gradations of becoming better, perfection, if we
Yep.
want to call it that. What would that one thing be? If somebody just, they were down in that valley and says, what would
Yep.
be the first thing that you would tell them to do?
It's actually super ridiculously simple that most people overlook it, and its presence. Because number one, and that's what the books are about. It's about letting go of the past, being
Hmm.
in the moment, and not letting the future captivate you and take you forward through that moment where you don't have any choice. So your one chance to do something about your life is right now. Right now, right now, right now, right now, and right now. So presence is the answer, but, and it's a big but, you have to get there. That's what my books teach people how to do. It's how to get to the moment and stay in the moment where your choice can affect your life. You can't be caught up in the past. You can't be caught up in the future because you have no choice there.
Because life is a series of choices.
That's right. And
Everything's a choice.
they're all made now. Now,
Left,
now, now.
left, right, yes, no, up, down, back,
Yep.
forward. Yeah,
That's right.
very good.
Yep.
Exceptional. All right. So
you also talk about inner peace in the book with high performance, right? So how do you see these two seemingly contradictory states, right? For some people, right? They see how do you have this inner peace and this high performance coexist?
It's all about understanding failure, because
Okay.
once you understand that failure is required, you don't have the lows anymore, because all we can do is bring our best self forward in that moment. Yeah, there's going to be times where we fail and fall on our face and mess up and all kinds of silly stuff because we're human. We're not always fully energized. We're not always fully, focused. We're not always fully present. And when we're not present, bringing our best self, that's when we screw up, right? But peace is the understanding that growth never stops. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we need to be okay with that. And yes, we need to grow from it. If we're continually growing and getting better, then every moment that I bring myself to, I'm going to be a better person than I was before. And I have to be okay with that. That's peace to me. I'm not
right.
perfect, not by any means. Everybody makes mistakes. That's what we're here for. We're here to grow. And one of the things that I think a lot of people that are in this this self-improvement area helping each other do is we all understand that we're all here to help each other. Like, we all come through our stuff, but it's
Yeah.
the people like us that are kind of reaching back and pulling the people up from the stuff that we went through. And that's really fulfilling, to help somebody through some stuff. So two things. One, you don't sit here and blame other people. Two, you don't sit here and blame yourself. You move forward. You get to that moment where you can affect yourself, your life, and others' lives and make them all better.
Right.
That's peace to me. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I mean, and a lot of people think that it's so much easier to play the victim card. And it's like, oh, this was woe is me, or this happened to me. And it's just like, well, great, get over it. Move
Yeah.
forward. I remember this pivotal point in raising my kids. I was teaching or talking to my son about something, and he said, well, who are you to tell me that? Because you did it and you failed. And I'm like, exactly. I said, exactly. I says, that's the whole point of this conversation. You got it. And he was like, I did? I'm like, yes, because you are supposed to learn from my mistakes. That's what I
Yeah.
do for a living, is I show people, listen, this is what I did. This is how I failed, but this was my next step forward to how I corrected that failure or made sure that it didn't happen again. I said, but you have to, the failures that you learn they're your jet fuel to push you forward.
Yeah.
You're not moving forward because you failed, but you're learning from that failure so you can move forward and not constantly be repeating the same failure. I said, so I learned, you learn from me. I learn from this person. Gary learns from me. I learn from Gary. I learn from you. Gary learns from you. I mean, it's just this interchange of understanding what other people are going through. That's why
Yeah.
reading books is so important for people, and doing podcasts and interviews and such, so that you can see that you're not alone. You can see that other people have been there and that they can show you a path that's easier. That's the whole
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going back to that peace thing that you asked about, Gary, is once you kind of understand this perspective. It's almost like a vantage point that you're living life through, rather than
Mm.
being so drilled in and drilled down on like task, 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 task.
Hmm.
You're living from this more of an overarching awareness perspective rather than a doingness perspective, like that you're in the task doing this, and this. You're living from this higher level perspective that's really taking in life from a more broad-based awareness perspective. And just that alone is way more peaceful than, the task-oriented, drilled down perspective.
Yeah, which,
Would
I
you?
think it leans into one of the aspects I liked about Be the Instrument was the spiritual practices that and you touch on, some of the spiritual stuff in there. Um, how do, because I'm thinking the audience listening in is like, yeah, it sounds all great and everything, but I got bills to pay. I got kids to take care of it. And like, it's how do they navigate the integration with that spiritual, with the practical, with actionable things while developing personal growth?
I think for me, it's about reflection. And,
Mhm.
some of that was, kind of taking some time at the end of each day and kind of replaying the
Mm.
day and seeing, what did I do that worked? What did I do that didn't work? That actually became much more drilled down version when it came to, the trading stuff and focusing on my mind. And it was literally microseconds where like you're flipping back over
Mm.
and over again, flipping back. Okay, I missed that, missed that, missed that, missed that, missed that.
Mhm.
I saw the emotional triggers that were taking me out of the moment, but um, I got to a point where like I'm like, man, I can't figure out how to do this. Like I can't figure out how to get that kind of awareness that I need to see this. So I started using this meditation program called HoloSync. That's made by
Oh
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
Centerpoint
yeah,
yeah. Holosync. It's great.
works very
Bill
good.
Bill Harris. And what it
Mhm.
does is it takes different tones on the different sides of your brain and it forces them to equalize. And it,
Hmm.
it actually and then they bump up or bump, I forget exactly the technology, but they bump down the frequencies and it forces your brain to evolve, basically.
Correct.
So I've been doing that for like 15, oh geez, I'd have to look back, 15 or more years. I
Wow,
do it every day. Sometimes
nice.
I try to do it first thing in the morning, like when I get up. But there's times that I'll do it in the middle of the day too. But what I try to do is just have some quiet time, and that's actually when the stuff comes up. When I say the stuff, it's usually the most vocal part of your mind that's having an issue with something, and those start to bubble up to the surface. What you'll start to
Hmm.
do is as you do this like from a really quiet place, like a meditative, practice, you'll see that stuff start bubbling up in your mind and you'll be like, oh, okay, watching that. But you don't have to do anything about it because you're just watching, right? You're watching.
Mhm.
So what
Mhm.
you're doing is you're practicing that presence at a time where your mind's not stressed out purposefully, so that when you get into your day and your mind is starting to experience some of those stress points and there's a little bit more emotion coming in, there's people coming at you, things coming at you, you're able to get into and process that information, that situation from a much more balanced perspective, and it just goes better. So I think people get scared off by religion and spirituality and stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. To me, it's about presence and
Mhm.
managing your mind. Your mind is the best tool you have, and that's your time. It's
Yeah.
15 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, if it's an hour, whatever it is that you can dedicate to just watching your mind and seeing how it processes things, including the emotions.
And I
It'll
think that's an important piece that you just mentioned there. But the way that I look at it is and we Ross and I teach this in our micro mastery challenge experiences where it's about creating these success rituals, right? And doing them, and so they're consistent, and there's inner reflection involved in that, and but it's something they do regularly. So it's um I'd be interested to hear, like, if do you have a AM PM ritual? Because that's one of the things we teach in our micro challenge thing is, what do you do when you get up, when you come out of the dream state, to come into the reality, and what do you do go when you go back into the dream state? Is it, what are you doing in those in that buffer zone?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. When there's something on my mind that I really, really want, I will drill down on that first thing in the morning and when before I go to bed, because that's your most influential times.
Hmm.
But as far as the meditative type stuff like holosync, I do that first thing when I get up, because I think, like you said, that's one of the more influential times. And
Mhm.
even Tony Robbins talks about doing his amp up. I think it takes 12 to 14 minutes to do
Mhm.
every day, and it's basically this major personal pep talk. Like, it just gets you amped up for the day, like, and it
Yeah.
starts you off on a positive note. I mean,
Right.
Mhm.
and super ridiculously powerful, because your energy, huge effect on your results.
Absolutely. So, so you do your hollow sync, and that gives you kind of put now. Do you do your amp up as well, or is hollow sync your amp up?
It depends on the day. Like, I've had so
Okay.
much going on that I do miss some days. Like, I don't do that every day. No, I probably should. You're
Hmm.
probably right, but no, I get into my day, but I do listen to a lot of positive oriented music.
Okay.
Like, if I'm a real estate agent too, so I have a lot of road time. So, like, instead of listening to something that might not enhance my mood, I listen to stuff that has lyrics that are, kind of mind bending. Like, everything that
Mm.
I listen to has a meaning. Like, it has lyrics that are actually affecting how I perceive life. And so I have several bands that I really like to listen to that's positive and just keeps me in
What's
a good frame of mind.
what are a couple of the bands you listen to? I'm
You'd
curious.
be surprised, actually. The Scorpions,
Okay.
Temptation. Within Temptation is one of my favorites.
Hmm.
Rush and
Gosh,
Evanescence.
of course.
They
Oh,
all
Evan
have
Evans too.
very,
Yeah,
very
good. Yeah.
powerful lyrics.
Hmm.
I mean, and
Hmm.
I keep meaning to write about it and blog about the lyrics in this music,
Yeah.
because I think it's just insanely powerful. Like, they come up with this stuff. I'm like, oh man, I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, if you change the lyrics and you think, okay, instead of me talking to a lover or talking to a friend, and you kind of flip it around like you're talking to yourself, you're like, oh, that's meaty.
That's
Yeah.
It's
nice.
it's
Good,
pretty
nice
powerful
reframe.
stuff.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah, totally.
holographic nature of communication, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
super powerful.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Those are similar to some of the groups that I like to listen to. I usually, personally, I like to listen to more of just the instrumentals.
Mhm.
But I really get into like movie themes,
Okay.
cinematic themes, and you just kind
Yeah,
of, I mean, they just because just like they're designed for the movies to bring up your emotions or bring them
yes.
down. And such, it's
Yep.
kind of the same thing. It's like it just kind of charges me up, especially when I'm writing. It's just like, okay, this is now I'm Rocky or I'm, Braveheart or whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, I could do this. And just kind of
Yeah.
go crazy. So I get it. Music is so, so important.
So
Uh,
powerful. And it
it's
just it
very,
hits you in a
and
different way, right?
it can
Absolutely.
go both ways. I mean, it
Yep.
Oh
can
yeah.
also put you down into the dirt,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
absolutely.
where a lot of music these days does.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Gary.
It's interesting, right? I mean, it's the so I don't like to listen to the radio much at all, but when my kids are in the car, you kind of have to succumb and
Yeah.
and and
I don't listen
and
to the radio. I don't, yeah.
there's an app called iHeartRadio which has different radio stations, and
Hmm.
if I'm
Yeah.
gonna listen, I want to listen to some old school stuff that I like, and
Yeah.
younger Gary hip hop and R&B and stuff like that, there's this one station in LA that plays some some of my genre of stuff, and it just blows my mind. They actually have a segment where they focus on people coming on to bitch and complain about things that irritate them, and I'm like, hey, look,
Yeah.
there's so many other conversations you could have,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And again, there's a lot. You listen to even genres of music, you can hear the different types of messages that come across. And while I enjoy rap and R&B and stuff like that, there's just so much of it that's based in the hyper drama of negativity,
Hmm.
and that's out there. So I actually listen to on Spotify, I listen to a lot of conscious rap stuff, which is just mind-blowing stuff. Like they use the skill of rap and the beats of but the language and the double triple entendres. I mean, it's like these guys are tapped in, and it just kind of gets you to this other level of mind. So yeah, music is definitely a whole topic in and of itself, for sure.
It
Oh
really
gosh,
is.
yeah. We could extend this for a couple hours and talk about all the different songs and what they mean and all that stuff.
Right.
Everybody
And
right? But yeah,
yeah.
I love it.
That'll
Absolutely.
be the next episode.
Nice.
That's awesome. So with all of that then, because I mean you have such a wide variation of backgrounds and
Hmm.
and business and experiences. Um, how did you put it all together with your own unique perspective on personal development? Like, how did you blend it all together? Like, how did that come about?
Well, as I said, when I started the whole real estate career was
Yeah.
an effort to go make the money to prove that this stuff works, and also to fund the accounts because I wanted to circle back and
Hmm.
do some trading. And
Hmm.
so the interesting thing is that the primary driver was I saw my sister's kids go into Little League, and I thought,
Hmm.
man, if I knew at that age what I know now,
Yeah.
Right.
and I don't have kids. So I'm like,
Hmm.
man,
Hmm.
I gotta put this down. Like I gotta
Yeah.
teach.
Mm.
I have to teach. It's like, so that was one of the big
Awakening.
drivers for
Nice.
me was to put this stuff down for them. And
Mm.
then it ended up being, well, shoot, if I'm writing it for them, it could be for everybody. So I just
Yeah.
started writing, man. And then 2 years later, here we are.
Hmm.
It's
It's
crazy.
like, man.
Yeah.
But I've also got a real estate career, and I also want to get back into the day trading. So basically, I've been getting up at anywhere from 12:30 to 3 every day for several years now, just so that I can kind of have my writing life. And
Mm.
like you, Ross, I kind of throw on some instrumental stuff when I'm writing, and it
Hmm.
kind of helps you get into that flow. And
Yeah.
it's just like, man, you lose 3-4 hours, and it's like
Easily. Yeah.
just pages and pages and pages of content that you're like, man, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But I love, while we're talking about it, I love Lindsay Sterling. I don't know if you listen to her or not, but she's
Oh,
really
yeah. Violin. Hmm.
yeah, pretty amazing.
I
But
call her violin on steroids, though. But
oh
yeah,
man,
she's
amazing.
yeah,
But it
she has
keeps
a
your
really
brain intrigued.
well. She's got a really kind of a really cool story too behind it, and which I really learned. I found out later on. I just saw this little bio on her, and I was like, wow, this is a really kind of a cool story. Where I mean, she
Yeah,
just loved it so much, but all of her friends like, oh, you play the violin because
yeah,
they had this frame of a violinist is somebody wearing a bow tie or a pink dress and just very boring in an orchestra buried with all everybody else. And she's like, yeah, she goes, I need to break that model, and
yeah,
so that I can stand out and be and experience and exude the emotion that playing the violin brings out in her. And it's like
yeah.
it's
Talk about,
performance art. It's just
oh,
unbelievable.
yeah,
And then you take her and compare her to someone like Josh Groban, which I'm just like, just he's talented too, but he just
yeah,
does it in a different way. And he brings out a whole different type of emotion from you. So it's just like,
yeah,
so for me, it would be kind of like, okay, what is my intention to accomplish with this session where I'm going to sit and write? And then
yeah.
who's going to put me in that state that's going to enhance this, and that's kind of the
Yeah.
direction that I go to.
Yeah,
um,
and while you're on instruments, I mean that's what Be the Instrument's about. It's about
yeah,
we are the
there you go.
instrument,
Yes, very
and
good,
basically
nice.
the words in that book are the tuning process that tunes the instrument. You are the instrument.
Hmm.
Basically tying your mind to your heart and your emotions and all that stuff. You're putting the whole package together, finding out what makes you tick. And
Hmm.
for Lindsay as an example, I mean, it's brilliant. You know,
Yeah.
she dialed in, man. That's freaking
Hmm.
awesome. You know, so if you can really you know, get in the zone like that, it's amazing
Hmm.
what you can accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very cool. So, what do you think that is the misconception that people have in general about personal growth and transformation?
You
So you
know,
so you're making a change, okay?
yep.
Or you've made a change in your career path and such. So you've gone from being high-end real estate, and so now you're moving into I'm doing coaching and personal growth. What kind of do you get a different type of reaction from people? It's like you're doing what?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's right.
yeah, okay.
That's right. So the interesting thing I've kind of assessed, and I've read so many books and been to so many seminars, and you know, from Anthony Robbins to you know,
Sure.
hypnotists, all kinds of stuff, and you know, again, not to brag, but just to I've been through so many different varieties of learning, you know, relative to coaching, getting people motivated, and that kind of thing. You know, I'm not the guy that's going to get up there and you know, get you all amped up, and then you know, you go home and
Right.
you're back where like you don't know what to do. Like I'm the guy that shows you who you are,
Hmm.
and I can help you through you to develop yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it's a different approach. It's very much more individualized. You know, you got to kind of get in their heads, almost like a psychiatrist, psychologist, and really develop, hey, what makes you tick, man? Ladies, guys,
Hmm.
you know, what is it that drives you? What's your passion? What are the things that you feel like that are getting in your way? What are the roadblocks for you? What are the obstacles? You know, and you kind of it's a process, you know, but you gotta it's almost like you gotta shake yourself up. And I think one of the cool things that is going on out there in the personal development industry right now is really, really good. And that is kind of a reframe, and that is that life happens for me, not to me. And when you look at life that way, the obstacles aren't obstacles anymore. They are your path, just like we kind of talked about
Hmm.
before. And when you reframe and look at those things that have been your roadblocks and obstacles before, they become your next challenge. And when you take on your next challenge wholeheartedly and you don't shy away from them and you don't go around them and you learn how to process the emotions to do it, it becomes a whole new life for you. So for me, it was fear. Going to go back to that, but fear is energy. And when you don't process fear or anger or whatever it is that you're dealing with as something else, it's just energy that I need to convert within my own body, mind, and use. It changes
Hmm.
the game. So when
Right.
you're kind of bumping up against those ceilings and walls and stuff, and instead of stopping, yeah, you might stop for a second to process, but you're going to go right through that full on awareness while you do it. Yes, you're still going to make mistakes, but you're going to go through that and you're going to learn the lessons that you need to learn.
For sure. So, have you ever run up against someone who has said, "Yeah, yeah, I know you've gone through your fears, but you haven't gone through what I've gone. You
Oh,
don't, you haven't had the life that I've had, or whatever the case. What do you do in a case like that?"
you got it's almost like a wake up call.
Yeah,
You know, I get it. We're not all here dealing with the same issues. We're not all
right.
here to face the same challenges. That's not reality.
Hmm.
But again, it's kind of getting in their head and trying to figure out what is that thing that you don't want to do to move to the next level. What
Hmm.
is it? Like it's
Name
something
it.
you want
Yeah.
to be here, but you're here. There's something here in the middle that you don't want to do. You either can't do, won't take it on. You have a certain comfort level. You just want to stay there. Whatever it is, there's something.
Hmm.
And I
Right.
promise you, if you can find enough motivation to take it on, you'll
Right.
get through it. But
Hmm.
there has to be for that person, there has to be a motivating factor. If there's no motivation, they're not going to get through it.
Well,
You
there's
know,
always motivation. It's just a matter of which direction you're allowing it to motivate you towards.
yeah, to stay comfortable or take it on,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So, what is it for you? What do you want? Like, and, rather than staying in that comfort zone where you know what you're going to get, you
Hmm.
have to step out into the unknown where you don't know what you're going to get. Yeah, you may fall on your face, you may fail, but you're one step closer to that thing that you want. And
Hmm.
little by little,
Mhm.
you chew that, that middle, ceiling. Sooner or later, that ceiling just goes away, and
Hmm.
you're in that role that you were once
Right.
full of, or just didn't even think you could get to.
So you're talking with somebody and they've said, yeah, there's this one thing that is stopping me that, for whatever reason. So what is your first piece of advice to them? Um, like what's the first step? Because it's going to be a baby step. If it's held them back for so long, to them it's a giant wall of China kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and it seems to in their mind it's impenetrable. So what
So
is your first area advice for this is the first step that you're going to take towards that?
so there's really two things. One
Okay.
is you gotta kind of take a bite size approach and figure it out. Like, what is that one thing that's going to motivate you to get to the other side of it? So
Hmm.
first you basically develop the motivation, right? And then you go, okay, what's one thing I can do right now that moves me closer in that direction, right?
Hmm.
But then it kind of goes back, for me, it goes back to believing. Okay. So in the books, I talk about a state of wanting. Okay. Wanting is basically a future projection, right? Your mind doesn't believe that it's true. So first you
Mhm.
have to convince your mind that it's possible. Then you convince your mind that it is true. Then it happens, right? So
Nice.
in that morning routine, when you wake up, you do the progressions. You go through this is the state of Doug, the way that I want it to be. And then what you do is you actually put it in the past as if it's already true. Because if it's in the past, your mind believes it, right? But that's not enough. You have to believe it with emotion. You have to tie total and absolute conviction to it. Like, to the point where, like, if I do this, Ross, Gary, there are tears rolling down my face. I believe it so hard and so much. It's so real to my mind that there's tears
Hmm.
running down my face. I'm so happy, so gracious, I'm so thankful that this is real. Like, that's my life. So one of the things that I recommend is doing that first thing in the morning and at night before you go to bed. You might want to do it a little bit before you go to bed because it can be a little bit emotional. But
Yeah.
when you do it
Yeah.
right and you tie the emotional anchors, the satisfaction and the gratitude to it, it makes it real to your mind. And then when you
Hmm.
approach your day, you're like, I can get through this because that's my goal. I can get through this because that's my goal. And then you just, then the bite-sized increments seem so much easier. So make it real and then make it real.
Hmm.
Nice.
Very cool. All right.
That's great. So, we met you in another event previously, and really liked what you were talking about then, and
Yeah.
introduced you to our good friend Jim Britt, and you end up co-authoring a book with him that's endorsed by Tony Robbins, and forwarded by Brian Tracy. I mean, that's pretty exciting, right? And in that book, your chapter is about unlimiting your limit. Let's talk a little bit about that, and I know that you have opportunity for listeners to kind of grab a free resource, the Limit Breakers Blueprint, I believe it's called, right? So talk a little bit about unlimit your limit.
So unlimit your limit. You can pick up a copy of the Limit Breakers on unlimityourlimit.com, and
Hmm.
that'll kind of get you started on that path. But unlimiting our limits is all about recognizing when we're bumping into those thresholds. The I don't want to, I can't, I will not. And it's about seeing those as we approach them. Like there's certain things that we don't want to do. We want to stay comfortable. So unlimiting our limits is all about recognizing when we're bumping into those things, and they're not subconscious, they become conscious so that we can see them first. Once we can see them, which is what I'm teaching people, then it's not such a big deal to overcome them. But if they're staying down in the unconscious, it's not going to happen. Like first you need to be aware of it, then you can change. But you can only change in the moment. What I teach people in unlimiting their limits is being conscious in the moment to effectively make changes to your own code in the moment. That's what unlimiting your limits is all about.
That's great. Awesome. I love the name too. I really do. Because I think that a lot of people don't realize how they've limited themselves. I think that's one of the biggest realizations that people need to understand is that if you have this ceiling, which is a glass ceiling, that means it's breakable and such, you created the ceiling.
Well, I think it's easier to be a victim, right? So then they don't have to take that responsibility and that accountability for, hey, I'm in the stuff I'm in because I created, I accepted it, or I didn't look for another option, or I drank the Kool-Aid, right? So like,
yeah, exactly. Or I can't get a promotion because of this. I can't get further because of this, or this happened, or whatever the case may be. The lists are endless.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the reasons why I brought that state of wanting, because we kind of get caught up in that cycle, and the unfortunate thing is that state of wanting just kicks the can down the road. If it's in the future and you are, cementing it in there with anger and frustration and all kinds of, literal anchors. Well, that future state that you want is going to stay out in the future. With that exercise that we were just talking about put it in the past, is basically breaking through that wanting barrier and making it real to your mind. Because right now, what's real to your mind is in the future, and you just keep kicking it out in the future with more and more and more and more emotions.
And so why would you keep back around?
Turn it around.
Just keeps coming back around.
Flip the script and watch your words that you're speaking to yourself with. Your internal dialogue is huge. But we don't see it because we don't want to.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people all the time, and on live streams I say regularly, is that anytime you're in communication, verbal or otherwise, you are either invoking the reality that you're stepping into, or you're confirming the reality you're stepping into. It's
exactly.
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 No doubt about it.
And that, and that goes back to what we're discussing about music. Because a lot of the music that's out there today, as Garry was talking about, is confirming.
Yes.
As to where we prefer something that's going to invoke us to, like, no, this is the possibilities are absolutely endless.
Yeah. Well, I think people invoke crap too, but they're either invoking crap or they're reinforcing it, or they're invoking positivity and they're reinforcing that. So it's either way, you're the source.
Yeah, and we all process words differently. So like I speak one sentence to you and we all interpret that differently. So
correct.
We watch the words that we speak and we hear, and we watch those internalizations and interpretations, and we kind of figure out, okay, well, how did I really look at that?
But here's the thing though, Doug. I think that what people don't get is that they also have choice in how they make that definition of so they can change that definition, right? So just because one word is said a certain way and it reacts, it's because of the definitions you put into it. Has nothing to do with the words or the sequence of words they're putting together. It's the definition that you invoke into it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is really important. What I stress a lot is when having a conversation with somebody, and they say something and it has then I question the connotation that they're, so then I'll just stop them. It's like, what do you mean by that? How do you define that particular word? And then then a lot of times they have to think about it. Like, well, I don't know. It's just a word I heard, and you're just like, well, what does that mean to you? What do you think that you said?
Yeah.
And then they'll, when they have to start thinking about it, because a lot of times that terminology is just automatic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like,
I
I'm
like
just,
to throw them for a timeline loop. I say, so where were you when you
yeah,
decided that?
exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm
where did you
curious.
hear
Where
that?
were you
What
when
were
you
you
decided
doing?
that? And before you decided that, where were you then? And why did you make that? So I take them on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm glad you guys brought that up because that's actually the third book. Like that F word faith,
Mm,
that's a huge problem for some people. Like
Very
you
much.
talk faith and there's like the roadblocks go up and people shut it down and you like, all these different things start going through people's heads. And I'm talking about it in a completely different way,
Hmm.
as a buffer between you and that wanting state where it helps you to pull back to the present moment and be effective in that moment. That's what faith is for. So it's like, man, if I could just dial into these people and just show them what faith really is, man, so powerful.
It is. It's really cool. So, Doug, we're kind of near the end of our hour together. It's already been a whole hour. This is
Wow.
just, I think we're going to start doing these long form interviews. Those are, you know, but so tell people how they can find more about you, where they can find your books, what do you got coming up? I know you've got some things on the horizon. You got lots of things on the horizon. So give people an idea of what they can find now and then what they can expect in the future here from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So the first place to go is unlimityourlimit.com, and you can
Hmm.
get a free download there. That's going to, kickstart everything. You can also go to betheinstrument.com for the book. Be
Hmm.
the Instrument is the first. There's actually a free download on Be the Instrument now too. So you get a
mhm.
free download on both of those. And so Be the Instrument's going to be the first book that's coming out in a couple weeks. Jim Britt's books, the co-author book with Jim Britt, Cracking the Rich Code, is coming out next week.
Mhm.
So you'll be able to get that one. Be the Instrument will be shortly thereafter, like a week or two after that. And then
Hmm.
we'll be launching the two F word books. So you got Forgiveness and Faith will be not too far after that because they're ready to go. They're written. We're developing the covers for them right now. And so those will be probably within the next couple months. And then I still have one more F word in me that's about to come out, and that one I think a lot of people are going to like, and that one's the F word fear. So once that one's out, we'll certainly get back on and tell people about it. And I
Right.
think there's just a lot going on with these books and coaching, and it's all aimed to help people. I just hoping that it helps them.
I'm pretty sure it will.
Mhm.
Absolutely positive it will. I think that there's as Gary and I have said, and why we do what we do is that, is because the world needs what you're doing, and they need it very badly. And in this storm we call life, everybody needs to know that there's an eye in the middle of that storm where there's calmness and peace and tranquility. And that's what you offer, if anything, a guide to get into that tranquility so that, once you get there, that's your whole thing, is that once you get there, then all of a sudden the flow starts and you can see things, you can see the chaos and choose not to participate in it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, there's a great song that speaks to just what you just said by Visions of Atlantis, Master the Hurricane. It's
Oh,
actually, I mentioned it
Mhm.
in the book, but it's
yeah,
it's all about it takes you through the whole progression, and it ends you right back at peace, and
Mhm.
very cool.
check out that song. It's really cool.
I will. Thank you for sharing that. That's going to be great. And how long has that been around? I haven't heard of them.
It's at least a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another cool band. Very cool.
Hmm. All right. See, learn something new every day. I love it. Gary, anything else from you?
That's it. Thanks for being on here, Doug. Appreciate it. We've been planning this for a while. We finally got around to it, so
Yeah.
Thank you
it
both
was
for
great.
having
And
me.
we
I
look
really
forward to having
appreciate
you
it.
on again when the next book, the next F word comes out. Um, so yeah, and
Try
so
to
those of
prevent
you
the
that
F words from coming out, right?
it just keeps coming out. It just keeps coming out, that damn F word.
Yeah.
And and then I know that you're also planning to ultimately have a series of these, and you're gonna call it the What the F series, right? What the F books.
What
Yeah,
the
that's right.
yeah.
We got a website coming for that too.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's
Well, thank you
awesome.
guys so much.
Thank
It's
you
our
too, man.
pleasure. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
All right. Be
Bye-bye.
well.